Halloweeners and welcome to Halloween. So, welcome to the Halloween special for Azur Lane. First, you'll notice that we've got new backgrounds and new Halloween trick-or-treat stuff. If you've been playing, you would have already picked up on this. We've got new skins for our girls, so what we've got here is Cleveland in her costume. If we go into the store, you'll also see that you've got new outfits for Shoho. As I said, Cleveland, we've got Ayamami, and we've got Kegro. So, nice little Halloween skins for them. In the academy, you'll see that our little 4 trick-or-treaters are wandering around, and they do offer quests. If you haven't picked them up already, some of my friends have assured me that if you do miss a few of them, you can go and do them all together at the end. But they do offer 2 new quests each day, and if you do 7 quests, you get a furniture item. So that takes us into the backyard quite nicely, because not only do we have the food item changed into pumpkins, which they like to generally do here, but we've also got a new type of furniture. So the new furniture items have been added, which is the Halloween set. Now, obviously all of these you can buy with furniture coins. However, what I did notice after I recorded this is that if you go into each individual kind of furniture tab, rather than the furniture set, you can actually find that there are 3 individual furniture pieces that you can buy using diamonds. So just be aware of that. So you actually have to go into each furniture item to come up with that one. So yeah, it would have perhaps been nice if they'd actually put them in with the furniture set, but they didn't. So that is the overview of what they've called a Night of Halloween, and now we go into the other event called One Battle for Glory. So we have Arkfur here. She was part of the evacuation along with HMS Glorious. The evacuation was ordered because it became clear that the Allies were unable to stand up to the advancing German forces. The Allies had been sent into Norway pretty much underprepared. It was an immediate response to the Germans going into Norway, and they felt that Norway had enough resources and enough of a tactical value that they had to respond. But as I said, they were so underprepared that it became evident that it was not going to go their way. So they were then evacuated out of Norway. Part of the evacuation also involved evacuating the Norwegian royal family. I will be talking about the history as I go through the video. I will also be talking about things like the notable drops that you can get through the event, as well as the other things that can be done through the event. So it's not going to be like the normal videos that I have done in the past, where I've just basically gone around and said, oh, if you're overpowered, it's easy, because let's face it, by now that is the standard wisdom. So, first map, SB1, here we have Acasta and Ardent. They were the destroyers that were dispatched with HMS Glorious when she was being sent back from Norway to Scapa Flow, from Narvik to be specific. So these 2 destroyers are basically heroes for what they did in the upcoming combat. So as you can see here, we've got level 50 ships. This means I am going to be going into combat, and I will be skipping ahead. And in we go with the boss. Okay, as you probably saw with the clearing video, did get a notable drop, which is Charles Osborne. There are two big notable drops in this map, and that is Charles Osborne and Z1. As I discussed at the start, the general map level for the clearing nodes is level 50, and as you can see, the boss node is level 54. Now, after you've cleared 4 of the nodes, you can spawn the boss. And here's the boss, Admiral Hipper. I don't know why you've got Admiral Hipper here, because in the historical encounter, it was just the fleet of Glorious, Ardent, and the caster against Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. Okay, so getting back to the topic of the event, you will face 7 nodes and the boss. If you want to get all 3 stars, you do need to clear 20 nodes as well as the boss nodes. So obviously one of the 1-star requirements is clearing 20 nodes. One of the 1-star requirements is to S rank the boss, and another 1-star requirement is to defeat all 7 nodes before defeating the boss, because as you know, a E-star requirement involves clearing the entire map first before you clear the map. Now, as you can see here, SP1 requires you to clear it 3 times before it will spawn SP2, so that is what I ended up doing. I went and cleared everything up to this point, which is the final boss fight, and now I'm going to go and talk a little bit more about the history of the entire event. Basically, HMS Glorious, the captain had decided to court-martial the air commander over a disagreement with a strategic plan to do a bit of bombing using a small amount of planes against undefined targets that probably would not have had any effect and would have put lives at risk. Obviously, the air commander refused to carry out this attack, and so the captain left him behind at Scapa Flow and said, "You're going to be court-martialed." So he was left there. Glorious went off to the evacuation with Arc Foil, and then while in the evacuation, Glorious sent Arc Foil a message saying, "Permission to detach from the fleet to return to Scapa Flow so we can court-martial this officer." Okay, let's go into the rewards here. As you can see, for the basic win of SP1, you just get the construction cube and some gold, and for 3-starring the map, you will get the Gloucester Gladiator biplane. So that means that we can just get back into things and get back into SP2. Here we have Gneisenau. Again, Admiral Hipper for no reason. And here is Scharnhorst. So, spawning the enemies, and as you can see, they are all level 58, and that means queuing up music and clearing away.
Here comes that shit again. I got a Halloween head full of tricks and treats. It leads me through the nighttime streets. Got cats and fallen trees. Under the ladders, always walking. Salt shaker spills, just roll it over your shoulder, babe. I got a bad idea again. I got a Halloween head. nights at night. That's alright. I just watch, I don't go inside. It's all the same old shit again. I got a Halloween head. I got a Halloween head. Lord, I got a Halloween head. Guitar solo. I got a Halloween head. Lord, I got a Halloween head. I got a Halloween head. Oh Lord, I got a Halloween head. Here comes that shit again. I got a Halloween head full of tricks and treats. It leads me through the nighttime streets downtown, downtown, downtown. I got a Halloween head. I got a Halloween head.
Okay, so we're now on the boss. The notable ship drops this time are Z1, Glowworm, and Ardent. As you can see, the boss level is level 62. As said before, the nodes clearing is level 58, and you have to clear at least 4 nodes before it will spawn the boss, and on the map there is a total of 8 nodes and the boss. Now, if you want to 3-star, the requirement this time is to clear 35 of the nodes. Okay, so those are the requirements. Let's get back with the history. As said, the air commander had been left behind at Scapa Flow. Glorious had been detached from the fleet after seeking permission from Ark Royal to court-martial this air commander, and so she was dispatched with Ardent and Acaster as an escort. But what Glorious wasn't doing, and what she should have been doing at the time, was she wasn't flying any combat patrols. These are basically where you're having planes flying out there to see if they can detect enemy ships, and they can then report if there are enemy ships in the area, and they can then either attack those ships, or if they're outmatched, they can simply flee the area. It's a standard procedure, but Glorious just wasn't doing it because the captain just didn't see the necessity of doing these missions. Now, as you can see, we've got Ardent as a drop. As I said, she can drop from the boss, but she can also drop from normal nodes, and she did drop from the boss here. Now, SP2, it does require 4 clears, and here we are on the final boss clear. So, picking up where we left off, these planes weren't flying their combat patrols. There weren't even any planes on the flight deck ready to go into action. Worse still, the captain did not even have anybody up in the crow's nest searching for any ships out on the horizon. The only ships that were actually looking for any enemy ships were Ardent and Acaster. Unfortunately, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau were operating in the area, and they did see the smoke from the British fleet from Glorious, Acaster and Ardent. So they went and set an intercept course for these ships. When the British did see the smoke from Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, it was Ardent that was dispatched to go and investigate, and at that point Glorious did decide to put some planes on the flight deck just to be ready, but rather than speeding up to try and get out of the area, she just continued at a normal speed. So when Ardent went off and confirmed that they were German ships and said, hey, these are actually battle cruisers, we're outmatched and we need to try and get out of here, they were in no position to escape. So Ardent and Acasta had to defend Glorious and fight for their lives. Okay, so SP2 cleared. Go into the rewards. Obviously the rewards here aren't anything special, so again it's the construction cube and money, but the 3-star reward isn't anything of note. 3-star reward for clearing SP3, however, is Acasta, so that is a good reward. So let's get into SP3. So Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. As you can see, the ships here are level 66, and we're going to clear and get back to some music. So in we go with the boss. As you saw, we can get Glorious on the normal node clears. The other notable drop here is Shigra. As you can see, the boss level is level 70. Again, the map level is 66. The boss does spawn after you've cleared 5 nodes, and the map consists of 9 regular nodes and the boss. And you do need to get a total of 35 clears of the normal nodes before you can get the 3-star requirement, so just keep that in mind. Now let's pick up with the story. Ad and Jocasta were fighting to try and save Glorious. They were fighting against the odds against Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. They basically were throwing up smoke to try and protect Glorious, and they were jinking in and out of the smoke. They did a couple of torpedo runs on Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. They mostly focused on Scharnhorst. Ardent managed to get one decent hit onto Scharnhorst before she was struck by the guns of Scharnhorst, and she then capsized and sank. Jocasta did slightly better, making several torpedo hits as well as several gun hits against them before she eventually went under herself. They did manage to inflict moderate damage against Scharnhorst, which forced them to return back to port after the action. Obviously, they did then sink Glorious, because Glorious was in no position to defend herself. Gneisenau, in respect for the 2 destroyers that had fought so valiantly, decided to lower her flag to half-mast. And the Germans were really impressed with just how much spirit these 2 destroyers had decided to face the 2 battle cruisers with, because they must have known that they were totally utterly outmatched, and there was no way they could win. Okay, so SP3, as you can see, you do need to clear it 5 times. As you see here, we did get a multiple drop of Glorious, and that is one thing about Azur Lane compared to some other games where you can actually get multiple drops of the event ships. So that is an option here. So if you want to farm for multiple versions of these event ships, you can do that here. Okay, so I'm going to pick up with the story, because if you thought it ended with the British ships just sinking and with Scharnhorst and Gneisenau returning to port, with Scharnhorst having received moderate damage, that's not actually where it ends. Because before Glorious sank, she did send out a radio communication. She sent out a location to say where they were, and that they had encountered both Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. The Royal Navy maintains that they got only a garbled message. However, what had transpired was that there was a ship operating in the area, or travelling through the area, and that was HMS Dorsetshire. The problem was she was on a very special mission. She had on board her the Norwegian royal family. As such, she was operating on radio silence, and she had strict orders not to engage any enemy vessels, not to get into any action or anything like that. She was just to go from Norway straight back to the UK with this precious cargo. So she was unable to go and pick up any survivors from the sinking of the fleets, and the admiral on board, when he learnt about the signal, he ordered the book to be closed and a new book to be started, and he told the radio operator that what he had heard was garbled, and that became the official line. Now, here we have the rewards. We get 2 cubes this time, and as said before, for a 3-star clear, we get a caster. So, nice little reward. With the delay in rescue, and with them saying that they did not know that they had been sank until they had received a German radio broadcast declaring that Glorious had been sank, it did mean that when they were out there trying to find them, the British couldn't find them, and they were picked up by Norwegian ships. Out of 1,500 men, only 40 survived. That's 4-0. This is why the Royal Navy decided that they were going to try and cover up the story as much as they could. As such, they pushed the narrative that Glorious was only returning to Scapa Flow because she was low on fuel. Even though records clearly show that Glorious had plenty of fuel left in her tanks, and Glorious's signal to Ark Royal was the intention that she was only returning to Scapa Flow because she was keen to court-martial the air commander that she had left previously at Scapa Flow. The other area of cover-up is with the Garbled radio signal. The radio operator who detected the signal has maintained continuously that it was absolutely clear, and there was nothing garbled about it whatsoever. There was somebody else who had detected the signal. He was sat on a swordfish, I believe. He was in a plane anyway, on a plane radio, and he detected the signal just before Glorious went down, and he was one of the survivors of the incident, and he detected the signal clearly and said, this is what the signal said, it was 100% clear. And it tallies up with what the radio operator on Dorsetshire says he received. So, obviously, that was being covered up. This is why it's a bit of a blight on the history of the Royal Navy. And for me, it also seems like a bit of a tale of incompetence on the captain's part, because it did not have to have happened. Because if the captain had been doing his job, and if he had been flying the combat patrols like he should have been doing, then they would have detected Scharnhorst and Gneisenau long before the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau had detected them. And that would have allowed them to have sped up and gone to maximum speed and escaped from the area and gone back to Scapa Flow. They could have radioed that they had detected Scharnhorst and Gneisenau in the area. The Royal Navy could have responded accordingly, but unfortunately that wasn't what happened. And this opinion isn't exactly controversial, because there was a House of Commons debate, and they determined that the major factor in the sinking of these ships was the lack of these combat patrols that should have been flying over the Glorious and the destroyers. And at the time, there were perfect conditions for them. The weather was right, and it was also conditions for maximum visibility. So if they were flying, they would have been able to easily spot Gneisenau and Scharnhorst way in advance. So I'm ending the video here. As I said, it's been a bit more about the history that's behind the event, as well as the ships that have been involved in the event. I have also been able to provide a little bit more of the event details in terms of what drops you can get in there. So I hope you enjoyed it, and bye for now.